Hey everybody, today I'm going to share with you 20 really practical tips for worship teams, for worship team members, musical directors, and worship leaders. These are things that have helped me and I've learned along the way throughout all these years. So here we go. Point number 1. Unless your church is utterly convinced that it is both God-glorifying and life-transforming for your congregation, for your congregants, to outwardly express worship to God, it's most likely not going to happen. Now this seems like an obvious thing to say, but I've ran into a lot of churches through the years that they're actually not sure if they want their people to express worship outwardly. And so what happens, and what I find is there's a lot of worship leaders that have never really had a good conversation, a clarifying conversation with the pastor or the leadership that that's actually what's wanted. So what happens is for years and years, many times the worship leader is trying to do something that's not even wanted. So you need to confirm this, because if this is in fact what the leadership of the church wants, then you can lead with boldness and knowing you have the backing of the leadership of your church. All right, that's number 1. Number 2, don't forget everyone on your worship team is actually a worship leader. Not just the worship leader, every musician, every singer, everybody. And be reminded that every move you make, every note you play and sing, everything you do, it says one of two things: watch me or worship God with me. People are watching to know which one it is. Think about what that means. We want to inspire people to worship with us. Number 3, to musical directors and worship leaders, don't forget to keep bringing new, creative, inspiring, and challenging music to your worship team. It is your job to serve your congregation, but it's also your job to serve and inspire your worship team. And this is something that's going to keep them coming back for more, keep them inspired to keep serving, and something that might even make some of them show up on time to your worship rehearsals. So don't forget to do that. Number 3, unfortunately, bad musicians draw bad musicians, and good musicians draw good musicians. I also have to say proud team members who create division also seem to draw more proud, troublemaking team members. So the point being, you want to have your excellence bar as high as possible. Excellence in heart and excellence in musical skill, because it's a lot easier to bring somebody onto your worship team than it is to get them off your worship team. I mean, think about it. If you're doing a poor job and everything sounds horrible, you might have an excellent singer or musician out there, and they're thinking, I don't really want to be a part of that. But then the people that have no skill, they're thinking, hey, I think I could be a part of that, and vice versa. So you want to keep that in mind. I realize some of you are from very small churches and you have limited people, but still, I believe the principle applies. Okay. Number 5, a successful worship team weekend is really gauged by only one thing. Did your congregation join in and express sincere worship to God? If you did everything perfectly, everything was on time, there was no mistakes, and basically your congregation was just like, that was pretty good. They didn't make any mistakes and they didn't engage in any way. Guess what? You failed. We're there to lead these people, inspire them to connect with God and worship God and glorify God. That's what we're trying to accomplish. We're not trying to accomplish a perfect performance. It's the end game of getting them to worship and connect with God. Don't forget that. Number 6, one of the most important worship team members is your sound engineer. Don't forget that. Include them as being part of your worship team, not separate from. Value them. Affirm them. Learn how to communicate with them so you can make it as good for you as possible and for them, and befriend them. Don't count them as separate. Number 7, to singers, it's better to think of yourself as pouring out your heart to God with a melody than it is to think of yourself, I'm performing a song. For some reason, I've just discovered and found that singers, especially singers who have been performers and been professionals, there's something about singing, I guess just your voice is obviously connected to you and who you are. It can be kind of a hurdle to get over to just worship God as opposed to perform. So what I think a good thing to do and a good way to think is just think, I'm not up here singing and performing. I'm actually just connecting, praying, communicating with God on this stage, and it happens to be with a melody. If you do that, worship will flow out of you and His presence will come. Number 8, know your limits. It's better for your worship team to do something simple and do it really well than to do something complicated that's kind of above your ability and do it poorly. With this said, which I've already counted on and already mentioned, you do want to always have something stirring that's challenging and helping you all grow. But for what you do on that actual weekend, make sure you can do it well. And also for worship leaders, the songs you pick can also have to do with who's on your team that weekend and what their strengths and weaknesses are. Here at Christian Assembly, some of our musicians are better at certain styles, so I'll highlight that kind of style so that I can highlight their strength and not their weaknesses. Number 9, learn to listen to each other. I mean, if I did just one talk on just this subject alone, it would be worth it. I mean, so many worship team members, no one listens to anybody else. I remember one time, a long time ago, and we didn't have in-ears, we just had floor monitors, and I went over to one of my team members to listen to their monitor mix, and literally, only themselves, they were the only ones in their monitor mix. I'm like, how can you know how to approach, what to play, and how to play to complement everybody else on this team if you can't hear anybody but yourself? It kind of reminds me of some people, the way they operate in their relationships, right, in their conversations. So you've got to listen to people. I remember Bob Wilson, one of my best friends, an amazing producer, writer, drummer that I've gotten to work with through the years. He would always say in these worship seminars, if you're on a worship team and there's 4 of you, you're only responsible for 25% of the sound that's happening. You're a part of a team and you're bringing your part, but you can't know what to bring unless you listen. And it is a skill that is learned because you're having to play in time, play correctly, play the right chord, the whatever, and be hearing what somebody else is doing at the same time. So keep growing in that, keep remembering that, and again, and be reminded this is a great lesson for your life, not just musicianship, but being a great listener, man. Everyone wants to be with a great listener. Not to mention all the wisdom we gain when we are great listeners. All right, number 10, learn the art of planned spontaneity. I mean, part of this is learning as a worship leader the discernment of what's going on in the room. Like if you're leading a song and it's just really working and there's momentum, don't shut the song down, keep going. Or if you planned a song that's really, really long and everyone looks bored to tears, learn how to cut it short and move on. But for some teams, they're not able, because of their skill level, to be very spontaneous. So I encourage you in your rehearsal, plan for a spontaneous moment with a reprise. Like say, for example, you're doing 10,000 Reasons in your set. You know, bless the Lord, oh my soul, that song. And you're just thinking this is going to be a moment. So you plan, you finish that whole song, and then you plan and rehearse in your rehearsal. You tell your team, we're going to come back in on that last verse, do that last verse again, and that chorus again. And we might do that, or we might not. It depends on what it feels like in the room. And if you can learn how to do that and be spontaneous, spontaneity can be huge in bringing engagement to your congregation. When they sense that something is actually happening in the moment, it really helps engage them. So learn that art of planned spontaneity. Number 11, play with dynamics. I have found that you have to exaggerate. Live music is different than being in the studio. When you're playing drums in the studio, you want to hit those things hard all the time to get that good sound out of them. You don't need as much dynamics. But live, you need to exaggerate dynamics. And here's one of the greatest things about dynamics. If you are really, really loud, but you're only really loud for 16 bars, and then you're soft for 16 bars, you can be pretty loud. It's just the problem is a lot of worship teams are loud all the time. And there's no adventure in the music. There's no kind of time or way for the congregation to kind of catch their breath or, of course, even hear themselves. But if you're getting loud and soft, it creates a beautiful adventure in the music. And like I said, you need to exaggerate this more than you think. It'll help a lot. All right, number 12, don't forget, what you often think is your worst worship set may turn out to be your best. If you are working hard and being faithful and doing your very best, be reminded that God is strong in your weakness. And this is how God reminds us that it's His Spirit that's actually at work, not ours. I mean, I know several times where I've been just frustrated with this because I so wanted God to do His greatest work when I looked the best and I was doing I'm telling people, man, did you see that? I was just flawless. And then you just felt like it was so terrible, and then you found out somebody was healed or saved or whatever. And I say all this to encourage you that God is strong in our weaknesses, and He is at work at all times, many times in spite of us. And we just have to thank Him for it and kind of laugh at ourselves, I think. But just be encouraged by that. Number 13, don't take being on your worship team lightly. Remember that it's a privilege, it's a huge responsibility when you're on that stage at your church or wherever it is. You're not only representing your church and your church leadership, you are representing God. You're representing Christianity. You're representing all of us. And it's a great privilege, and even though some of you do it week in and week out, don't take it lightly. Number 14, mediocrity can be a distraction. One of the reasons we should rehearse and work towards excellence is because when we do a poor job, we create all kinds of distractions. A bad mix, pitchy singers, forgotten lyrics, awkward song transitions, all of those things all bring attention to us and attention away from God and what God would be wanting to say to somebody. That's why we want to be as excellent as we can. And that's why we are serving when we show up on time to our rehearsals and have rehearsals and practice the songs at home before we show up and think through what the songs are saying. All those things, we want less distractions. Number 15, foster a culture of humility. At your church, make it so that the coolest people are the humblest people. One of the reasons and main reasons, first top reasons why worship leaders quit, why worship team members bail out and leave and never come back is because of relational strife. And if you can have a culture of humility, people will want to stay together and be together and work hard together. Number 16, play to the room. I mean, I've had to laugh at times, I'm sorry to say. Sometimes it seems like worship teams, they're pretending like they're at Staples Center Arena and there's 10,000 screaming, worshiping people there, but it's actually the early service and there's like 42 people there that are basically kind of asleep. You want to be more personable and humble and not pretentious, kind of acknowledge what's actually happening in the room. Not in a downer sort of way, but in a non-pretentious sort of way. And I think some of it is just with the worship arrangements and styles of what we do sometimes is kind of set up for a big arena rock kind of thing. But you know what kind of service you're about to do and how many people are going to be there. And anyways, I like to call it, play to the room. And this is going to help your congregation trust you more. And the more trust you can win from them, the better. Number 17, humility and excellence don't have to be mutually exclusive. At my church, Christian Assembly, here in Los Angeles, where I have now been for 30 years, by the grace of God, I've had some real heroes around me. Justo Mario, amazing sax player, and Bob Wilson, one of my best friends, drummer, producer, songwriter. Both these guys have all kinds of accolades in the music industry. But what's interesting is they're the most skilled ones, along with some others that I don't have time to mention. But while they're the most skilled ones, they're the most humble ones. And so what they've created is this culture of how can I be, for myself and others on the team, how can I be all proud when the person with all the skill is more humble than me? And this is what we should all strive for. I mean, I've always heard over and over again, well, the people that have skill, they're always so proud we don't want them on the team. And then the really humble people, they're just so wonderful to work with, but boy, they're not nice to listen to. We should all strive to be both of those. That's what we want to be. And when you have that combination, let me tell you, it is powerful and it is inspiring and it is a blessing. And you are bringing so much to your team and to your church and to your faith community. Amen. Number 18, I'm going to rattle off several just hopefully helpful tips on how I run a rehearsal. So we're going to focus in on the rehearsal itself right now. All right, first thing, have a rehearsal. I found out, I've been shocked actually, but found out that there's a lot of worship teams that have no rehearsal. They just show up and wing it. And I encourage you to prepare, to do your very best and have a rehearsal. Send out recordings of the songs ahead of time so people can be familiar with them and practicing them. If possible, have a rehearsal like on a Thursday night. And so when you come Sunday morning, especially if you have no Saturday night service, then when you come on Sunday morning early, you're not scrambling and trying to do a whole rehearsal. You're doing more of a run through and a sound check. It's going to help you a lot. Musical directors, make your rehearsals fun. I already touched on that. Make it something people can't wait to be a part of and come to. And when something is wrong while you're rehearsing a song in a rehearsal, you need to actually stop and fix it. I've observed rehearsals before where the bass player was playing in the completely wrong key the whole song, and they never stopped and acknowledged it and fixed it. And I thought, isn't this why we're here? Isn't this what a rehearsal is, to fix the things that are wrong so that they're right? So when something's not correct, that's why you're there. Fix it, stop it, correct it. You can do that in an affirming way. Fix things. Okay. Musical directors, drummers usually should be the main person you're cueing. You want to let them, if they're on the click, they become the boss of the tempo, and you need to not rush and you need to follow them. But when it comes to where we are in the song and when the next song starts, the drummer is the one that you really need to be cueing, because if he keeps traveling down the groove road, he's going to win. And so I like to have a good eyesight towards my drummer. Let's see. Figure out your tempos ahead of time. It is really hard to get all your tempos right in the heat of the moment You might be excited, and then it's time for this ballad, and you're going to do the ballad twice too fast because you're excited. But if you plan that ahead of time, you can get it right. Learn how to communicate drum grooves. I'm talking to musical directors, worship leaders again, and to a drummer. So, for example, if you're a guitar player or a singer or a piano player or whatever, you need to, when you're listening to music, you need to be listening to what the drummer does. You need to listen, wow, on that song, the kick drum goes boom, and then the snare is going, like, listen for those things, and listen to the kind of drum grooves that usually happen in verses and choruses and different styles of music, so that you can communicate to the drummer and say, you know what, on the verse, we actually don't want any snare drum, any backbeat, we just want hi-hat and kick. And just changing up drum grooves a little bit vastly improves the sense of arrangement of your songs. And for me, has helped me so much in my songwriting and my producing. It kind of starts with what the drummer is doing. And by the way, also your guitar playing and strumming can really improve if you're kind of imitating what a drummer's doing on your guitar. Just another little added note there for you. Let's see. Okay, have a separate vocal rehearsal. If possible, it'll really serve you to do this, especially if in your music you have a lot of harmonies and you have a big vocal team. You really can't work out all those harmonies while the band's roaring and playing loud. It's going to help you a lot. Singers, a really common mistake is people are harmonizing and just going between the tenor and alto part and melody back and forth throughout the song, and it just kind of creates confusion. You need to work those things out. Obviously, if you have a worship leader and one other singer, then you don't have to worry about it, but that'll help you a lot if you can have those separate rehearsals and work those parts out. Something we've done is, on verses, we'll just sing melody on verses, and a lot of times on choruses, we'll sing harmony. Sometimes when the harmony part seems kind of weird, we'll just make it into a unison line as well. And just putting a little bit of thought into that can go a long way. All right. I keep talking about the sound engineer, but be patient with the sound engineer and leave plenty of time to work on those monitor mixes and to work on what the mix in the room is going to be. I remember one of the first kind of bigger concerts I did with my daughter Eileen, and she was so shocked that her monitor mix was so bad, and I told her, you know, we work hard to get the monitor mix as best it can possibly be, but the truth is, in the real world, what I've found, and I've worked with all kinds of situations, is most of the time it's not right. And what a great worship leader and worship team person has learned how to do is fight their way through all the imperfections and the distractions and everything that's wrong, and still worship their heart out and lead strongly with whatever's happening. And you need to learn how to do that. But the more time you give to it, the better it can possibly be. And something else that I'll do is sometimes I'll leave the stage and go out into the auditorium or the sanctuary and listen to the mix the engineer is getting in the auditorium and make sure it's sounding like I think it should. Number 19, kind of on that thought, a good worship team audio mix is loud and powerful, but not overwhelming. It's not the same as a concert mix, but it's not wimpy. I've found that some of the hardest time I've had to get what I wanted for a worship mix is sometimes with the most skilled sound engineers, because they've done these big arenas or big loud clubs and mixed rock bands and all this kind of thing. So they know how to get just a chest-crushing kick drum and just this amazing, awesome, huge rock loud sound. And the mix is amazing. And if you're just there to just listen, it's really great. But a worship band mix, for me, this is my opinion, in a church that really has an engaged singing congregation is powerful and inspiring. It's not super soft and wimpy, but yet you can still hear the congregation singing, and they can still hear themselves singing. When you have that, it's encouraging for them. It makes them feel like they want to be heard. And so know that that's a very fine line between being powerful and inspiring, but yet soft enough to be engaging. But that is what you want. All right. Whew. Okay, and my last point, practical point. Don't forget, I want to leave us with this. Worship music is only a means to an end. And a means that takes us to the one who is the beginning and the end, Jesus. Amidst all the details and the rehearsing and the amazing amounts of technology that are involved in pulling off a service and pulling off these days doing online services and all these things, oh, so many details. But really all we're trying to do is worship God, love Him, glorify Him, and connect with Him, and help our congregation, our people do the same. That's all we're actually trying to do. It's actually a very single-focused, simple thing. Don't lose sight of that. That is our goal. And that is worth doing. And it is worth fighting through all these details and all of these things and practicing and growing and all these things so that we can do a great job of doing what we're ultimately created for, worshiping God and glorifying Him forever. Amen. Thanks for being a part of this with me and listening.